So welcome everyone to our Florida Community Mindfulness beginning a new ceremony marking our transition into a new year, 2024. They do mount up over the years, don't they? Anyhow, welcome everyone. So for the next couple of hours, we'll all be involved in a process of hopefully transformation that will leave us with a sense that we have let go of the old and we really are able to freshly begin anew, whatever that means intimately to each of us. So please just relax and be here. If you're carrying anything with you, please put it down. If you're projecting anything out in the future, you can put that down. And just give yourself an opportunity just to be here. Because life, as Thich Nhat Hanh tells us over and over again, life is only available in the present. So this is life.
The Dharma Body is bringing morning light. In concentration, our hearts are at peace. A half smile is born upon our lips. This is a new day. We vow to go through it in mindfulness. The Son of Wisdom has now risen. Shine Shakyamunaye Buddhaya. Namo Shakyamunaye Buddhaya. Namo Shakyamunaye Buddhaya.
So we cannot stop our habitual thoughts from arising. So our focus is on the mind in which those thoughts are occurring. Our minds are bigger than our thoughts. We know that because we can be aware of them. The same way we can be aware of sounds and sights and smells and tastes, senses. So in practice we disengage from our attraction to these things that are arising in the mind and relax the mind. And notice that right now we are all simply aware. And our awareness is not the same as the things we are aware of. Knowing that is the beginning of freedom. So please take a moment just to relax your minds. Letting go of all agendas. Letting go of the stories of a day or a lifetime. The worries and concerns that we carry with us in our minds. It's so simple. Just be here. Right now, in this moment. Present, aware, alert, at ease. We call this coming home. We just simply are aware that we're sitting here, breathing, aware, fully alive in this moment. Nothing is needed, nothing is missing. In this moment, everything's okay. Just give yourself a moment just to touch. Good morning, everyone, once again. Yeah, so it's interesting. You look out into space, or you see those pictures from the telescopes and whatever they send out there, the probes. It's boundless. It's beyond space and time. Right? And we actually can look deeply into our own minds and see our own minds also are boundless beyond space and time. And yet, to kind of navigate this world, human beings invented time. You may find it hard to believe, but it is an invention. And unfortunately, over the centuries, the millennium, we have forgotten that. And rather than seeing time, hours and minutes and days and months as years as just something we invented to help us navigate this world, get to places on time and meet objectives and stuff like that. Remember birthdays and things like that, It has come to rule us. So rather than our day planners existing for us, we exist for them. And many of us, our minds are always focused on what we need to do. And we neglect who we are. We neglect what's most important. And so, we need to learn to pause, to stop, to step out of time, to come back to ourselves. So that's what we're doing today. But I encourage all of us, because it is so necessary to give yourself in your own lives, to give yourself the time to step out of time. Give ourselves time for reflection. Give ourselves time for nourishment and renewal. Give ourselves time to return to what it really means to be a human being. And in the popular, whatever it is, the delineation between human doers and human beings. Even though we're called human beings, I think most of us define ourselves as human doers. Right? When we greet each other, we go, "What have you been doing lately?" That's how we kind of... Rather than how are you, really, how are you? So in the world of time, in the world of life, in the world of this journey we all have from birth till death, just want to acknowledge we're all on the same journey. Actually, everybody, even though everybody seems to see how they're different than everybody else, it's really kind of ridiculous, isn't it? Because the truth is, we're all on the same exact journey. We're born, we live, and then we die and we exit. That's really the most fundamental thing about life, is how short and brief it is. How short our time is here, on this planet, in our relationships, to be together, to live a life. And so really, from an inner point of view, the question is, what am I doing with this life of mine? What am I creating with this life? And we create through the actions of our body, speech, and mind. And the actions of our body and the words of our speech are what is most observable, right? But the truth is, the ruler of it all is the mind. And the words we speak and the actions we take with our body come from this mind of ours. We're all in agreement, right? It's very important. This is one of the reasons why in Buddhism, such emphasis on meditation, because meditation is a technology that deals directly with the mind. So not knowing the preciousness of this life and not really knowing the meaning and value of this life, and getting lost in the world of doing, getting lost in the external world and all that's going on in the external world and all the ideas and values that we are being subjected to, all the winds that are moving through this world, we lose connection with who and what we truly are and what is most meaningful. So, on this New Year's, we have an opportunity to look and to stop and to do that. Now, in Buddhism, there's a very significant word. It's called karma. Everybody heard karma? Popular word. What's your karma? It's my karma. Got to change my karma. You know. Karma just means simply action. And so it is the actions of our body, speech, and mind that really create our life for each of us. And there are wholesome actions and there are unwholesome actions. Right? There are wholesome things we can do on our body that nourish and take care of it for its well-being, and there are actions we can do with our body that are destructive of that. Right? There are words that we can speak that are helpful and productive and supportive and nurturing, right? Intelligent, wise, truthful. There's all kinds of things. Or there are words that we can speak with our body that are just with our mouth that are just the opposite. And then secretly, but really conditioning all these other two, is our mind. What our mind is up to all day. No matter how we look out there, how we appear to others and how we speak, many of us have really developed a fairly civilized veneer, and we kind of know how to act properly and speak properly. We're fairly civil. But in the privacy of our own mind, that may not be what's going on. And in the Buddhist tradition, the mind is most important because that's what's really affecting us. Right? And that's really what is nurturing our well-being or our ill-being, our calmness or our inner conflicts, whether we are truly happy and at peace, or that's not the case. Right? So it is these actions of body and speech, and especially the actions that have gone on in our mind, our thoughts, feelings, perceptions, the things that we ruminate on, the things that we obsess about, the things that we, repeat over and over again, the way we think about ourselves, the way we think about others, all that stuff, that has its own energy. Right? And it is always conditioning us in how we basically feel, how basically our heart is when we show up in the world. Now, because for some reason the word comes to mind of, because we didn't know better, because we didn't know better throughout our lives, not understanding these fundamental principles of how, through the actions of our body, speech, and mind, and wholesome and unwholesome, we are creating our own karma, which we will then reap within our own sphere of body, speech, and mind, but also we'll probably impose it on others in the world. And you can see how it gets imposed in the world, these mind states, how they take form within the world when many people come together and act together. Because we didn't know better, we have acted unskillfully in the past and created negative karma for ourselves and for others. But the good news is we can know better, and many of us now do know better, and yet we don't often act better. We're not there yet. And that's just a stage. I mean, it's, for many of us, it begins with kind of beginning to understand, take a deeper look at ourselves, understand our lives a little better, understand a little better why we are the way we are, positively and negatively, and begin to understand we want to change. Now, in the Buddhist tradition, because the fundamental nature of all of us is pure, this is the fundamental nature of our mind, is pure, untainted, uncontaminated. Right? Okay. Because of that, everything that we have imprinted on it has no permanence or solidity. Right? It's like skywriting. It appears, but there's no permanence to it. So because of that, and that is a very powerful message, it means no matter what our karma has been up to this moment, which is the product of our body, speech, and mind, which sort of means like, this is how I am, and this is my story, right? However that is or has been in this present moment, in this now, we can begin writing another story. We're not stuck. Because in Buddhism, nothing is solid, nothing is permanent. Everything is in flux, you see. And once you understand that everything's in flux and everything is just a product of causes and conditions, we have two wonderful options for us. One is, when the old stuff arises, as thoughts, feelings, perceptions, impulses, etc., all that stuff, when we are aware, when we're mindful, when we have new criteria, we can what? We can choose not to act in old ways. We can choose not to be controlled by old patterns that are so comfortable to us, that are so habitual to us. But yet, they have no solidity. If you look in your mind, people say, well, I have these very strong habit patterns. They say it with such conviction. So my response is always, wow, I'd like to see it. Can you please go into your mind and pull out that very strong conditioning and show me? Show me that strong habit pattern. You can't find it. Why can't you find it? Because it doesn't truly exist. Right? Somebody said to me, if I said I had a flower, and they said, well, I don't believe you, I can say, well, here it is. Right? This is a real flower. Okay? But if these habit energies, if these conditionings are so real, why can't we see them? Why can't we show them to somebody? Because they don't truly exist. Their power only exists because we believe they're real. Whew. Could that be true? When we stop believing they're real, and we know that everything is open to change, then we can begin to write the agenda of our life. In Buddhism, there's this incredible thing. An ordinary deluded sentient being can become a Buddha. An ordinary sentient being is like your most deluded, afflictive human being. But they have the nature of a Buddha, which is an enlightened, pure being. All of us have that in us, every one of us. That's the message of Buddhism. So what does it have to do with today? So today is about karma. Today is about an opportunity for all of us to step back from our ongoing involvement in time and action, and step back and reflect on our life. Reflect on our life really from who I really believe I am. Like that deep place within yourself where you sort of know who you are. No matter what's happened in life, you know who you are. And that's what you want to begin to manifest. And new year, new chance. New year, new chance. New opportunities. And this is a good model. It's a model for the world. Because if you read the news every day, you see what? Karma. Karma without any self-awareness. People just acting out their karmic patterns. Right? One generation after the other, just continuing. They never stop. Right? They never reflect. So there's no opportunity to begin anew. So what we're doing today is, in our own little way, modeling for the world another way. Okay? Yeah. Any questions before we go on? I mean, it's very important. It sounds very simple. But this is so counter to the way we live our life. We just run our script. And we never ask, where did I get this script from? Is this really my script? When I was born, I came out of the womb and I announced to my parents, this is the life I'm going to lead. I'm clear. Don't interfere with it. No, we were shaped, we were modeled like pieces of clay in a potter's hands. And now somebody's come along and says, oh, you can melt that clay down and reform it the way you want. Very powerful message. Many of us have trouble believing it, you see. Because who we are seems so what? So much who we are. It's hard for us to step out of ourselves and go, I'm just conditioned. Right? I've been conditioned by my family, by my culture, by my schools, by everything that goes on, the currents that go on. This is all fashioned me. So today, in a little way, we're just going to step back. I invite you all to step back and very personally take a deep look. So our ceremony has 3 parts, and it really is about this transformation of karma. See, every day we are doing this. Every day, from the moment we get up to the moment we fall asleep at night, our old stuff is arising. Everybody know what I'm talking about? Our old stuff arises. Ways of thinking, memories, dramas, crises, right? Beliefs, the whole deal. It's always, and we're often running with it. So when we know that that's what's going on, and when we want to change, we are now aware. So when that stuff arises, we see it. And we know it's the old stuff. It's the old way of thinking, it's the old way of feeling, it's the old way of ruminating, it's the old way of obsessing, it's all that stuff. And it's no longer congruent with how I want to be, which is part 2 of today. They go together. There's a way I want to be, and therefore there's a way I no longer want to be. And this has to do with the actions of our body, the actions of our speech, and most importantly, the actions of our mind. So the first part of our ceremony is this, everybody's been to New Year's Eve parties, right? It's close to 12 and we all write our resolutions, right? So the first part is looking back over the year. This is important. So this will be the first part, and I'll say a little bit more about it, the practical of how we do that here. But this is very important. In Buddhism, we talk about skillful and unskillful. That many of us, not willfully, perhaps sometimes willfully, have acted in a way that is not skillful in the sense that it hasn't produced goodness. It hasn't produced goodness for me, it hasn't produced goodness for others, it hasn't produced goodness for the world. And so the first thing we do, because hard, right? Hard-headed? You see? We're all hard-headed, so we got to get it through. So it's kind of stopping and looking at the actions of our body, speech, and mind of the past year and going, ooh, that wasn't very good. Things that we did, but also opportunities that we missed. Okay. And again, this is not for those of you who brought up in a tradition of guilt and shame. This is not that. So it's very important to understand. This is just taking an objective assessment of our actions over the body of the last year. So it gets through to us, I know what an unskillful action is. You see, I get it. And again, we have to do this kind of reflection so we really get it. Or else it's just, I know unskillful action, harmful, I give them up. I'm not going to do them. But then when we actually look at our behavior over the past year and go, oh, that was an unskillful action. It gets real, right? So it's very important that we take this kind of inventory of our year and acknowledge wrongdoing, shortcoming, unskillfulness. And let me just say, feel a sense of remorse. Is that okay? Not guilt, not shame. You don't have to beat, for those who love to beat yourself up, please don't do that. It's a new year. But it's good to have a little tinge, so that wasn't good. Just a bit of remorse, just so we kind of feel it. It's not just up here. Yeah, that wasn't good. Yeah. So that's the part that really deals with past karma. Right? So past karma, which means the results of the actions of our body, speech, and mind, have a forward motion. Right? And they will keep with that forward motion unless we do something to change it. So for many of us, we're doing things that we've been doing for decades. So we take an opportunity to just step back and look with criteria, which are your criteria, and say, yeah, that action of my body, those words I spoke, those thoughts that I thought, unskillful, harmful to myself or others. And I feel remorse. I don't want to do that stuff anymore. Okay? So this is part of our inward journey. And if you find you're beginning to feel a little shame, or you start beating yourself up, feel remorse that you're doing that to yourself. Okay? In Buddhism, we call that the second arrow. You know, it's like, you know, we're not happy just to shoot ourselves once. We want to put another arrow in, you know. Got to really feel bad for doing those bad things. But Buddhism isn't like that. It's much more, it's really about, it understands the nature of the mind and how it works. And it's a technology of change and transformation, okay? So if you find yourself going down that road, immediately feel remorse for it, okay? So the first thing is to really acknowledge, okay? Acknowledge, very objective, acknowledge the unwholesome things that still motivate us, consciously or unconsciously. But what we're really about is changing our karma, right? And we change our karma through our actions of body, speech, and mind. So it's not only the acknowledgement of the past and the willingness when the past stuff arises in the present, which it will, being aware of it, labeling it, and not feeding it. But if we really want to change, it means we have to be very clear in our minds how we want to be. Aspiration, intention, you know, all these kinds of words. First, it's an aspiration. It's a general sense of how I want to be, how I aspire to be in this world. Then it becomes more concrete by turning it into intentions, and then it becomes more concrete when we turn it into concrete actions. Okay. So this is the technology of transformation. As I say to many people, for those of you who are disappointed that you've read all the books, you've read all the transformative books, right? And you've listened to the transformative podcasts, and you've even gone to the workshops and retreats of the transformation people, right? And if you go, well, how come it's, you know, sort of like still same old in here? Yeah. Okay. It's not your fault. Okay? It's not your fault. Change only comes through practice, through action. And so this will be our journey today. Okay? So let's get practical. So we begin. Everybody have a piece, a little paper and a pen. Anybody not have that? So, for the first part, we are going to reflect on our past year. Or you can go back as far as you want, okay? Mostly this is about 2023, but some of these are old stuff, you know. They might have been on your list for decades. So, but this year it's going to be different, right? The world needs us. We need to purify our karma so we can really be of help to this world. Okay? So, this is personal. This is not, the person next to you may have a totally different criteria, totally different life. So the first part of this is we're going to reflect on our past year, and we're going to write down these actions of body, speech, and mind that we did or that we now know we could have done, that we feel remorse for, okay? We're going to write those down. You don't have to write down the whole episode, okay? Some of them could be generic, critical mind, but also very specifically kind of things. Specific things, specific people. Okay? Okay. And you'll have time to do that. There's no rush. And for you real big sinners here, if you want extra paper, we can give it to you. You know, there's no limit. Okay. Now, when you're done with your acknowledgement, feel that you're done. That you kind of know that side of yourself. I mean, I know all of you have many good qualities, right? But it's our good qualities that don't get in the way. It's those other qualities that get in the way or sabotage us, okay? So I want to acknowledge that. So when you're done as individuals, you're going to get up, you're going to go out the back, and you're going to walk down. You can get on your shoes and go out this door and walk under the pergola into the garden where you will see a fire pit. Okay? And you will go up to the fire pit and you will put what you've written down in there and really feel. So it's not just, just not a game, but really feel that you're really free of it. You know what I mean? You've made open acknowledgement. Because many of us, we carry this stuff with us. We love to ruminate on these things that we've done in the past. This is not the Buddhist way. The Buddhist way is transformation, but acknowledgement. So please feel that when you write them down, you're done with it. Okay? You've acknowledged it. You're going to do different, which is the second part, okay? Is that clear? So this is very important, that you really feel in your heart. That's why I say write it all down. I mean, you can write it in your own little code in shorthand. You have to write out, all the details. But you're clear. And you're done with it. Okay? Any questions? So you're going to get up, you're going to go out, you're going to go through under the pergola, you're going to put it in the fire, and then you're going to come back around. There's people out there, and then you're going to come back in the hall because we're going to move on. Okay, so come right back. Unless you need to go to the restroom. And there are restrooms here, there are restrooms in the education building, plenty of restrooms. Okay? So, any questions? Good, so please begin your introspection, write down, this is just for you, and then we're going to burn them. So in this next part of our ceremony, we'll do something we call the repentance kata. And there'll be incense offering. We'll be bowing in gratitude. We just put our hands together. Won't be doing a full bow, but it's... And then we will be reading this from the Plum Village. This all comes from the Plum Village chanting book. These are all from the Thich Nhat Hanh tradition. Be reading beginning anew. So we begin with this repentance poem, and we do it 3 times because, I mean, they're all kind of, there are various reasons, body, speech, and mind, and different things, past, present, and future, but I just think it's because we're hard-headed, and so we need to say things at least 3 times for it to get through. So please, you'll be repeating after me. I'll say a verse, and then you repeat. You want to hit the bell, Brian? Invite the bell. All wrongdoing arises from the mind.
All wrongdoing arises from the mind.
When the mind is purified, what trace of wrong is left?
When the mind is purified, what trace of wrong is left?
After repentance, my heart is light, like the white clouds.
After repentance, my heart is light, like the white clouds.
That have always floated over the ancient forest in freedom.
That have always floated over the ancient forest in freedom.
For the second time, all wrongdoing arises from the mind.
All wrongdoing arises from the mind.
When the mind is purified, what trace of wrong is left?
When the mind is purified, what trace of wrong is left?
After repentance, my heart is light, like the white clouds.
After repentance, my heart is light, like the white clouds.
That have always floated over the ancient forest in freedom.
That have always floated over the ancient forest in freedom.
For the third time, all wrongdoing arises from the mind.
All wrongdoing arises from the mind.
When the mind is purified, what trace of wrong is left?
When the mind is purified, what trace of wrong is left?
After repentance, my heart is light, like the white clouds.
After repentance, my heart is light, like the white clouds.
That have always floated over the ancient forest in freedom.
That have always floated over the ancient forest in freedom.
Next, we will have our incense offering, which Angie will offer on behalf of all of us, and Danny will chant. She'll begin the chant, and if you know it, please join in on the second line with Danny.
In gratitude we offer this incense throughout space and time to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May it be fragrant as earth herself, reflecting careful efforts, wholehearted May we and all beings be companions of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May we awaken from forgetfulness and realize our true home.
So next, we will be bowing deeply in gratitude. So we will not be doing full prostrations with these, but we'll stay seated. And there's 5 different verses that I'll be reciting on behalf of all of us for gratitude. And at the end of each line, there'll be a bell. And at that bell, if you're so inclined, you can bow as you're seated. In gratitude to our father and mother, who have given us life, we bow deeply. In gratitude to our teachers, who have shown us how to understand, love, and live deeply in the present moment, we bow deeply. In gratitude and compassion to our friends, who guide us and support us always, including during difficult moments, we bow deeply. In gratitude to all those who have made us suffer and who have helped us develop patience, compassion, and understanding, we bow deeply. In gratitude to all beings in the animal, plant, and mineral worlds, and to this land and all of the ancestors who made it available, we bow deeply. And now, 5 of our members will be reading from the Beginning Anew ceremony of the Plum Village Chanting Book.
With great respect, we turn towards the conqueror of afflictions, offering heartfelt words of repentance. We have lived in forgetfulness for a long time. As we have not had the opportunity to encounter the Dharma, our habit energies have led us into suffering. We have made many mistakes out of unskillfulness. We have been blinded by our wrong perceptions for a very long time. Our heart's garden is sown with attachment, hatred, and pride. In us are seeds of killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, and lies. Our everyday deeds and words do damage. All these wrong actions are obstacles to our peace and joy. Let us begin anew.
We see that we have been thoughtless, straying from the path of mindfulness. We have stored up afflictions and ignorance, which have brought about so much aversion and sorrow. There are times we have been weary of life because we are full of anxiety. Because we do not understand others, we are angry and resentful. First, we try to reason with each other, then we blame. Every day, the suffering increases, making the rift greater. There are days when we are unwilling to speak to each other, unwilling to look each other in the face, and we create internal formations which last for a long time. Now we turn to the three jewels. Sincerely recognizing our errors, we bow our heads.
We know so well that in our consciousness are buried all the wholesome seeds, seeds of love and understanding, seeds of peace and joy. But because we do not know how to water them, the wholesome seeds do not sprout fresh and green. We continue to allow sorrow to overwhelm us until there is no light in our lives. When we chase after a distant happiness, life becomes but a shadow of the reality. Our mind is occupied by the past, or worrying about this or that in the future. We cannot let go of our anger, and we consider of no value the precious gifts of life which are already in our hands, thereby trampling on real happiness. As month follows month, we are sunk in sorrow. So now, in the precious presence of the Buddha, fragrant with sandalwood incense, we recognize our errors and begin anew.
With all our heart, we go for refuge, turning to the Buddhas in the 10 directions and all the Bodhisattvas, noble disciples and self-achieved Buddhas. We sincerely recognize our errors and the mistakes of our wrong judgments. Please bring the balm of clear water to pour on the roots of our afflictions. Please bring the raft of the true teachings to carry us over the ocean of sorrows. We vow to live an awakened life, to practice smiling and conscious breathing, and to study the teachings authentically transmitted. Diligently, we shall live in mindfulness.
We come back to live in the present moment, to plant our heart's garden with good seeds, and to make strong foundations of understanding and love. We vow to train ourselves in mindfulness and concentration, practicing to look and understand deeply, to be able to see the nature of all that is, and so to be free of the bonds of birth and death. We learn to speak lovingly, to be affectionate, to care for others, whether it is early morn or late afternoon, to bring the roots of joy to many places, helping people to abandon sorrow, to respond with deep gratitude to the kindness of parents, teachers, and friends. With deep faith, we light up the incense of our heart. We ask the Lord of compassion to be our protector on the wonderful path of practice. We vow to practice diligently, cultivating the fruits of this path.
So as we just heard from those readings, we are moving from the acknowledgement of wrongdoing and understanding the reasons for it to beginning anew, which is really the purpose of this, and this is really where we have to put our energies. But again, without the acknowledgement and the understanding of our karma and the things that are just going to keep arising in us, without having that kind of self-awareness and that criteria to label things correctly when they arise in our minds or when we speak in a certain way, change will not occur. So it's very important that we kind of, very objectively, this is not personal. We're just understanding there's a certain patterning that has happened to our minds that do not serve us, okay, or do not serve the way we want to be in the world. And we're just changing that patterning, okay, by being very conscious. Another way to look at this is we've sort of been asleep at the wheel for many decades in our life, right? And now we're waking up. We're aware. We're conscious beings. And when we become conscious beings, we can begin to move our life in the direction it wants. At the same time, acknowledging that we might have acted in certain ways when we were unconscious. Is that clear? Very important. Don't take it so personal. So now, and this is again, I don't want to work percentages, but there's a certain smaller percentage of our mind's awareness that we need to have in terms of what's arising from the past and our capacity to be present to it and not to feed it anymore. Right? Every time we follow those old patterns of body, speech, and mind, we're just feeding it, intensifying it, we're ensuring that it will continue. So we got to stop feeding. But we don't have to go hungry. Because now we're going to be very conscious about, in the coming year, what is it that I want to feed? What is it that I want to nurture in myself? In the actions of my body. So many of us have things we need to do to create the wholesomeness of our bodies. Because without a good body, it's very hard for us to fulfill whatever we see as our mission in the world. We need a body. It's a vessel that we depend on. So we want to take good care of our body, make sure its actions are always in the direction of health and well-being. We don't want to do harm with our body, especially we don't do harm to another person with our body. Then again, how we speak. I would say that speech is probably the primary way that human beings, way we relate to each other, we talk to each other, right? Actually, it also has to do with the mind because many of us have lots of inner conversations with ourselves. So we want to change the quality of that conversation. Now again, a little later we'll be looking at our mindfulness trainings, but basically this is, before we get there, for each of us to really think about in the actions of my body, in the actions of speech, the way I speak to people, the way I speak to myself. Can I really commit to always making it wholesome, helpful, constructive? The world has more than enough negativity, doesn't it? So we need to learn to support human beings. Sometimes, that means learning to keep this thing closed, which is a physical act, by the way. So the mind can still be going, but the mouth can be closed. So sometimes it is it's very helpful to learn to what not to say, as well as to say. And the third aspect, of course, is the mind. What, if our mind is going to dwell on anything, what do we want it to dwell if I am going to be thinking, what kind of thoughts do I want to have? Right? What kind of mind states do I want to be cultivating? So this is, again, very personal. Each of us has an intimate window in terms of our life and the actions of our body, speech, and mind. And again, this is not about how others perceive us, right? We are not going for any acting awards here. Okay? This is inside. We know. And the transformation has to occur within each of us. So this has to do, again, with aspiration. This has to do with clear intentions, conscious living. This has to do with making it very concrete. So now, and again, you can get more cards if you need it, and this will take home with you. So these are your aspirations, intentions for the coming year. And again, I invite each of us to, even though they may start out sort of general, like I want to be a kinder person. All right. Anybody not want to be a kinder person? We all want to be a kinder. All right. Who are you going to be kind to? You know, and name it. Name the person. And I want to be more patient. Who are you going to be patient to? All right. Is that clear? Well, I want to be more positive in my speech. All right. How many times a day do you want to say something positive to somebody? 100? In other words, do you get a sense of what I'm talking about? I mean, it's make it concrete, or it won't happen. As long as we keep it in general terms, it'll stay general, but it's got to get very personal so we can hold ourselves accountable and actually see in the reality of our life change is happening. And again, it happens because we practice. And as lay people, where do we practice? We practice in the world, we practice in our families, we practice in our relationships, we practice at work, we practice, in all the interactions we have with our world, how we show up. So again, this is for you. You take it home. And again, some things come to us quickly, but sometimes it's good just to stop and ask yourself, what it really is the aspiration. Some of us have never thought this way. Really, what is my aspiration for how I want to show up in the world as a person? And again, this is not necessarily a public person. This is within yourself. How do I want to show up in the world? How do I want to show up to myself? If I really showed up to myself with integrity, let's say, what would that look like? If I really lived my life congruent with my values, my spoken values, or the values I say I believe in, if I actually lived it, what would that look like? You see? So it's always that, what would it look like, takes it out of the general. So again, it begins sort of internally with sort of these kind of, aspirations, this kind of general idea we have about how I want to be in the world, what my values are, and then we kind of take it into the world, into our life as it really is, and ask ourselves, well, how am I going to manifest this? And since this is just for you, may I suggest that you be a little adventurous? maybe challenge yourself a little bit. Take ourselves out of our comfort zone, kind of, you can prioritize. Sometimes it's good to kind of, since this is just for you, you know? If I really practice what I preach, what would that look like? Because it usually means we're going to take ourselves in realms of discomfort. It's a little uncomfortable to stepping out in that way. Maybe taking a risk. Not sure how somebody might respond. You know what I mean? It's all kinds of things come up. My friends and family might not even know me anymore. Who knows? Again, there's no hurry. We have a few more minutes. And sometimes, once we've written everything out and we kind of think we're done, sometimes it's good just to put it down and ask myself, is there something else? Is there another area of life that I haven't reflected on? We all have spheres. We have an inner sphere within ourselves. We might want to be different the way we are within ourselves in our very personal life. And then in our interpersonal life, we step out into spheres of family, friends, neighborhoods, work, community responsibilities, other arenas where we show up in the world. What's that going to look like? So before we move on to the next section, let me take a moment just to acknowledge we have people online today. But how many people are online?
At the moment, 59, although we had more earlier.
Okay. So, good. Welcome. Oh, plus our Naples members are all gathered together, so I think there are 20 or 25 of them all gathered in one place together this morning. Are we ready to move on? Again, you can add to this, make it a living document. You can add to it and modify it. And let me just acknowledge that next week, Betsy will be leading a workshop on, is it live or on Zoom? It's on Zoom, and it's for everybody, members and non-members alike, and it's on what? Vows and aspirations and how to make them real. So there's a technology involved, so I invite you all to, and that's when? That's this coming Saturday, okay? Probably in the morning, so please be aware of that. So good, we've been through a process, and now we'll be doing we're going to recite the Heart Sutra, good ground for our life. Then we're going to recite, 5 members are going to recite the mindfulness trainings. The mindfulness trainings are, in the Plum Villa tradition, they're really the 5 precepts. They're basically, the simplest way to change our karma is by ethical living. Right? I mean, and the basic of Buddhist ethics is not to do harm, to do good. And they cover the spheres of the actions of our body, you'll hear them, the actions of our speech, and not really our mind. That's really a deeper practice, but Thich Nhat Hanh, Dalai Lama have all expressed the idea that if just human beings could just learn to live ethically, forget about religion, just learn to, to observe the ethics of not doing harm and support the good, this would be a transformed world with that. So anyhow, that's why we put the 5 mindfulness trainings into this, and then there'll be some final readings, and then we'll end for the day. And looks like it's a nice day outside. We'll have some time together to eat and be together. So, sutra opening verse.
So everybody should have gotten the chanting sheet, and the sutra opening verse is at the top of the first page. So next we will chant the heart of the Prajna Paramita. I'll begin with the first incantation, and then I'll invite the bell, and then Angie will do one strike of the Makugyo drum, and we'll all begin together on the second beat. And each syllable is one beat. And for the 5 mindfulness trainings, we'll have one of our Sangha members reading each of the trainings. Brothers and sisters, please listen. Now is the time to recite the 5 mindfulness trainings. The 5 mindfulness trainings are the basis for a happy life. They have the capacity to protect life and to make it beautiful and worth living. They are also the door that opens to enlightenment and liberation. The first mindfulness training.
Reverence for life. Do not kill. Do not let others kill. Find whatever means possible to protect life. Do not live with a vocation that is harmful to humans and nature.
The second mindfulness training.
True happiness. Do not steal. Possess nothing that should belong to others. Respect the property of others, but prevent others from enriching themselves from human suffering and the suffering of other species on earth.
The third mindfulness training.
True love. Sexual expression should not take place without love and a long-term commitment. Be fully aware of suffering you may cause others as a result of your conduct. To preserve the happiness of yourself and others, respect the rights and the commitments of others.
The fourth mindfulness training.
Loving speech and deep listening. Do not say untruthful things. Do not spread news that you do not know to be certain. Do not criticize or condemn things that you are not sure of. Do not utter words that cause division and hatred, that can create discord and cause the family or the community to break. All efforts should be made to reconcile and resolve all conflicts.
The fifth mindfulness training.
Nourishment and healing. Do not use alcohol, drugs, or any other products which contain toxins, such as certain websites, electronic games, TV programs, films, magazines, books, and conversations. Consume in a way that preserves peace, joy, and well-being in your body and consciousness, and in the collective body and consciousness of your family, your society, and the earth. Cultivate good health, both physical and mental, by practicing mindful eating, drinking, and consuming. Practice looking deeply into how you consume the 4 kinds of nutriments, namely edible foods, sense impressions, volition, and consciousness.
Next, Angie will be saying the verses of praising the Buddha for all of us.
The inexhaustible virtues of the world-honored one cannot be adequately praised. We at the Florida Community of Mindfulness, on this day, gather as a twofold Sangha. Come to the altar, meditate, and chant. Praise the virtuous actions of the Buddha and offer this prayer. May the path of the Buddha grow brighter. May the Dharma become clearer. May wind and rain be favorable. May this country be at peace in the cities and rural areas. May all follow the way of right practice. May nature be safe. May people in society be free and equal. May the refreshing breeze of compassion enter into this world of heat, allowing the sun of wisdom to shine clearly in the cloudy sky, so that the path of liberation is appreciated everywhere, and the Dharma rain falls, benefiting all species. May the Sangha that is present here practice diligently, showing concern and love for each other, as they would for their own family, transforming their consciousness. We aspire to follow the example of the Bodhisattvas, Samantabhadra and Avalokiteshvara, and all other Bodhisattva Mahasattvas, and the great perfection of wisdom.
And now I'll be sharing with you some of the verses from the dedication chapter in Shantideva's Way of the Bodhisattva. May beings everywhere who suffer torment in their minds and bodies have by virtue of my merit joy and happiness in boundless measure. As long as they may linger in samsara, may their present joy know no decline, and may they taste of unsurpassed beatitude in constant and unbroken continuity. Throughout the spheres and reaches of the world, in hellish states wherever they may be, may beings fettered there, tormented, taste the bliss and peace of heavenly realms. May those caught in the freezing ice be warmed, and from the massing clouds of bodhisattva prayers may torrents rain in boundless streams to cool those burning in infernal fires. May the hail of lava, fiery stones, and weapons henceforth become a rain of blossoms. May those whose hell it is to fight and wound be turned to lovers, offering their flowers. And may the stooping animals be freed from fear of being preyed upon each other's food. And may the famished spirits have such joy as those who dwell in the most heavenly continents. And may the blind receive their sight, and may the deaf begin to hear, and women near their time bring forth like the Buddha's mother, free from any pain. And may the naked now be clothed, and all the hungry eat their fill, and may those parched with thirst receive pure waters and delicious drink. May the poor and destitute find wealth, the haggard and careworn joy. May confidence relieve those in despair and bring them steadfastness and every excellence. May every being ailing with disease be freed at once from every malady. May all the sickness that afflicts the living be instantly and permanently healed. May those who go in dread have no more fear. May captives be unchained and now set free. And may the weak receive their strength. May living beings help each other in kindness. May children and the old, the weak, protectorless, bewildered in the wild and pathless wastes, and those whose minds are dulled, and all who are insane, have pure celestial beings as their guardians. May all attain the human state, and be possessed of wisdom, faith, and love, with perfect livelihood and sustenance. May they have mindfulness throughout their lives. May everyone have unrestricted wealth, like the treasury of space, enjoying it according to their wish, without a trace of harm or enmity. May beings destitute of splendor become magnificent and bright, and those worn down by toil and drudgery acquire great beauty and perfection. And thus, by all the merit I have gained, may every being, leaving none aside, abandon all their evil ways, embracing goodness now and evermore. From bodhicitta may they never be separate, and constantly engage in bodhisattva deeds. And may they be accepted as disciples by the Buddhas, and turn aside from what is demon's work. And may these beings, each and every one, enjoy an unsurpassed longevity, always living in contentment, May the very name of death be strange to them. On every side in all directions may groves of wish-fulfilling trees abound, resounding with the sweetness of the Dharma, spoken by the Buddhas and their bodhisattva children. From birdsong and the sighing of trees, from shafts of light and from the sky itself, may living beings, each and every one, perceive the constant sound of Dharma. May they come into the presence of the Buddhas and meet with bodhisattvas, offspring of the same, with clouds of offerings unbounded. May the teachers of the world be worshipped. May kindly beings, spirits, bring the rains on time for harvest to be rich and plentiful. May our rulers rule according to the truth, and may the world be blessed with all prosperity. And let no being ever suffer pain. Let them neither ail nor languish, never doing evil. May they have no fear nor suffer insults, and may their minds be ever free from sorrow. May the wise and learned be revered and always be sustained by offerings, with minds suffused with purity. May their renown spread far and wide. May all bodhisattvas now fulfill their high intentions for the sake of beings, and sentient beings likewise now receive the good the Buddhas have in store for them. And now, as long as space endures, as long as there are beings to be found, may I continue likewise to remain, to drive away the sorrows of the world. May the pains and sorrows of all wandering beings, may they ripen wholly on myself, and may the virtuous company of bodhisattvas bring about the happiness of beings. May the Dharma, only remedy for suffering, the source of every bliss and happiness, be nurtured and upheld with reverence, and throughout the vast continuance of time, endure. So my friends, this morning we have come together and we have been able to plant within our mind streams good seeds, positive seeds. Seeds that are watered and cared for will grow. Seeds that aren't watered and cared for will not grow. So we all have planted the seeds of goodness within ourselves for the coming year. It is now the responsibility of each of us to nurture those seeds within ourselves. How often? You know yourself. Right? Every plant has different requirements for them to grow. Every sentient being, we have different requirements. So you know what you need. So just please do it. And may this be a wonderful year for everyone. Thank you. And we know about the vows class on the 6th. Is there anything else? Afterwards, there'll be some announcements about food. Very important. But why don't we now do the dedication of merit, and then we'll have the announcements.
So with the first small bell, please stretch out your legs to prepare to stand. And with the next bell, we can rise. Next, we bow to the Buddha, representing that awakened nature within each of us. And if everybody would stand to the middle, or face the middle, and we bow to each other in gratitude for the support we've given each other and what we will be giving each other in this coming year. we dedicate the merit. May any benefit that has come to us from our practice this morning be shared equally with all whom we encounter, whether near or far away, and may its effects ripple continuously to aid in the healing and transformation of the world.